All right, so now we're going to start the question point of the evening. So we're going to start randomly drawing the names out. Once your name is drawn, just come up into the bag and pick a question, and then we'll read it out to you, and then you can begin. You have 2 minutes to respond to the question that's being asked. Daniel Michiano. Yeah, you got to pick right here. Oh, I'll read it out.
Oh, you gotta read it?
Yeah.
What if I don't like it?
Oh, you gotta read it. Okay. So your question is, how best would you funnel benefits to the community members from our current development projects?
What? Sorry.
How best would you funnel benefits to the community members from our current development projects? Is that Prime Minister?
Yeah. Well, I guess we would model it similar to what we do at Pick River Development Corporation. There's great ways that we can give back. Like I've talked in my past speech by the Catholic Church renovations, our new school infrastructure, and making sure that people are well looked after. Benefit-wise, our benefits a lot of times aren't the greatest for employment, but like maybe we'll find ways to buy additional insurance so people can be all up to par that way. But it was a tough. I didn't really get to.
Thank you. Arnold Michiano. Okay, your question is, what is the representative role of members of council?
Okay, the membership role of each council member is, if we go back to our Chicknock-Tagay when that was passed here, is it 2 years ago? And it's going to, the role is going to play a very, very important part. There's not going to be one group that's going to elect anybody. What it's going to be all our people that are out there, whether you're a young child, an elder, and so on. And that's how you have to represent your constituents. We wish you now.
Yeah. Yeah. Next up is Abraham Michiano.
It's too hard. Can I throw it back in?
No.
Holy cow.
What are some ideas in keeping community members informed of community projects, for example, hydro projects? What are some ideas in keeping community members informed on community projects?
I think transparency would be my number one thing. Is when I spoke to a few people in this community itself, and people off reserve, one of the things and the issues that they had was they don't know what's going on. They have no idea. And I think we can use what we have here, modern technology. We can inform people. We can send out letters. We can do whatever we need to do to ensure that everybody knows what's going on and we're all on the same page. It's imperative as a community member, our youth especially, that they're educated, they're well informed as to the issues pertaining to Bictigong First Nations. It's for me, it's everyone should know what's going on so they can make a better informed decision when it comes to elections, when it comes to choosing counselors and whatnot. They have to have the information at hand in order to make a good, solid decision. And that's for the betterment of the whole community, not just a select few. It's for everybody. And that's where equalization comes in and all that wonderful stuff. I'm not an intellectual person. I'm just a lay person. But I do understand some of the issues. And when if elected, I'm going to bring some new ideas to the table. I'm going to put forth new ideas and new initiatives, because our community is way better than a lot of other communities. I'm not comparing them, but we are. We are, and we have the capabilities to do whatever we need to do.
Thank you, Abe. Art Fisher. Do you believe that band employees deserve bonus checks, or do you believe that they are financially reimbursed at a fair market rate? If elected, would you support or be unsupportive of such incentives?
Everybody wants a raise. I think we've dealt with this issue in the council for quite a while, last 5 years, I think, or something. We have what we call grids to pay people certain grids comparable to other places like the town of Marathon or city of Thunder Bay, comparable grids. We set that up, and you'll have to go see the finance to fully understand. But anyway, you can go so like you have a qualification to get into a job, and that's a qualification you get paid by. Doesn't matter if you have a PhD in something, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll get a raise, because you don't really need that PhD in that job you're going to be using. You have to go with the qualifications that are required on the job for you to get any raises and increments. And I think so far we've been paying just the standard of living quality, and that's 2%. And I don't know if it's time to pay more, because we'd have to look at our financial picture really to see how much money we got, see if we can afford it. And if the land claim comes, I'll say, yeah, sure. If we get paid from that, yeah, let's give them raises. But anyway, including the council. Anyway, I think we try to run it as fair as we could with the market that's around. So If somebody's saying we're not, I think they better come and talk to me about it, because I know we are paying a fair equity as compared to other communities paying what their jobs descriptions are. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Roy Michiano. That's the name, babe. Okay, your question is, what would be your strategies for including youth into council?
We attempted this a while back, and I think we had a youth present there, and that was great. And I strongly feel that we ought to place, well, I think we'll get a couple youth now, regardless. But if not, we ought to make it clearly possible that once election is all done, we should open the views to get the youth involved in our system, because no use just talking about them. Let them be there to teach us something as well. Miigwech.
Thank you, Roy. Angie Michiano. How is the financial stability of Beatcon Nishnabeg maintained?
I'm not really familiar with the structures that exist within the band here, but just being aware of some of the boards that I sat on, and in terms of maintaining financial stability, I think there has to be policies and procedures developed to ensure that there's, I guess, tools that allow for that to happen. And I don't think there's a whole lot other than that. I think strong policies and procedures are the key for financial stability within Beakdagong and Nishnabek. That's it.
Thank you, Angie. Bonnie Goodchild. Okay. What do you feel is the best method to ensure a strong foundation is in its place within our early childhood education department?
I think we do already have a strong foundation with our early childhood programming. By foundation, that could be financial, it could be holistic, and I don't think we're having any struggles financially, but holistically, I think if we continue to build programs with our small ones, because they are the ones that are most important to us. We have to teach, we have to be leaders. And what does that mean? It means leading a good life, teaching them our way of life, our ceremonies, our songs, and that's happening. So I think we have a really good program, really good staff, because I've been to the daycare myself, I've been to the school during sessions, and they're doing an awesome job. And all we can do is continue to grow on that as a people, as a leader, support, and listen. Good.
Thank you, Bonnie. Josh Leclerc. Okay, what is your vision for the Housing Capital Department in Beatgon-Nishnabeg?
All right, housing in Pick River. This is an issue that has been an issue for many councils. One previous speaker had just spoke to the outstanding balances of community members owed to the band. I don't think this is an issue. It is our responsibility to provide housing and homes for our own people. If they don't pay, well, we have to find those solutions and how to maintain those houses, because it is our duty to provide homes. So my vision for housing is more homes for people, more homes such as the sixplex housing complex. We have people that want homes. I am an individual that has applied for a home to try and move to this community to start my own home and have not been successful. That is how I ended up in Marathon. That's how some people end up in Thunder Bay. So we have to find solutions. Because of my situation, I'm now back in the community. So my vision for Beatgon-Nishnabeg is providing homes for our people so they can call Pick River home. Miigwech.
Thank you, Josh. Sharon Osberg. The dog-cat population is becoming a big safety and health concern in Beatgon-Nishnabeg. What do you think would be a positive solution to this problem?
I really didn't want to answer that. If the pet is, I'm not really familiar whether or not it is a major problem, but I really do think that back at once upon a time we had dog bylaw, and we're still working on that in order to get it clarified. So it should also be applicable to pets. But I think there should be a minimum amount per household. Like if there is a problem where we've got little old Sharon here with 10 cats living in her house and not taking care of them, then we as a council member could institute a law that allows that we have to have them spaded or neutered, etc., and licensed accordingly. Of course, this is going to take some resources in order to have, an enforcement officer, etc., which we're always looking ways and means in order to get this issue clarified. However, on the other hand, I do think that it is an individual responsibility to maintain their pets. I don't think this is something that chief and council can go around and say, okay, this is what you have to do, this is what you can't do. I mean, it is the responsibility of the individuals. We should not be telling people how to live their lives, but we should expect them to follow a healthy, cultural, sensitive living. And if that incorporates their pets, then they may do that.
Thank you. Tony Hansen.
Just read it to me, young lady.
You don't want to be prepared?
No. Why? Surprise me, surprise me.
Who do you consider your primary constituents to be?
Everybody. Primary constituents is everybody in the community. Everybody in this community, out of this community, who live everywhere. All your friends, all your relatives, all your families, all your fellow councilmen, everybody. I consider everybody primary, not just the individual.
Thank you, Tony. Simon Desmond. As a member of council, how will you best advocate on behalf of your membership?
I think as an advocate for the membership, it's being involved, getting involved in community issues, attending community meetings, but more importantly, also going out and trying to find out what the issues are. For a long time, I've been thinking of involvement with youth councils, women councils, men's councils, as well as council, so that people have a voice. And then there's also the grandmother and grandfather councils, where we can begin to engage and talk to people and find out what their concerns are. And one of mine, like I said, this year, I feel strongly, it's been one of my biggest concerns as a council member is how do we engage community? And I've always been that advocate saying we need to do a mail out, we need to get out there, we need to post, we need to get on the community channel, we need to mail information out. Another part of being a community advocate would ensure that executive summaries are going out as needed. And there's been some things, I know people have questioned the land claim and wanting to know information, but we've been bound by confidentiality agreements. And when we're ready, we will be consulting community. Another part of advocacy for people is when I hear people complaining, I always try to engage them. And we sit around tables and I tell them, write a community letter. A letter signed by 10 people is going to get more action than a letter signed by one. And some of those issues have come about because of housing, saying there's not been adequate housing or lack of housing or substandard housing. And I say, if you've got complaints, be the voice that becomes the change. But we can't do anything effectively if we don't hear from community. So we need to get community involved. We need to come out, hear their concerns, and then be that advocate at the table. So, miigwech.
Thank you, Simon. Leah Machano. There are many members who live off reserve. How do you plan to include them in the various programs and services that the band delivers? For example, housing, energy rebate, etc.
Well, as I am a woman who lives off reserve, I feel that it's not just the council's responsibility. It's your own responsibility to show up to community meetings. It's your own responsibility to get out there and be a community member. Like, it starts with you. You can't tell me that I'm gonna go to a meeting because it's important. I have to realize that myself and take the initiative.
Thank you, Leah. Okay, we're going on to our second round. Art Fisher. Yep, same thing. When elected, what is your top priority as a member of council for Beatcon Nishnabeg?
Okay. I think my top priority is going to be with dealing with the Constitution and making laws in the community, to start working on that so that we can call ourselves a full nation with its own laws to be ruling your own destiny. I think that'd be one of them. Another one I work on is in policing. I'll be working on with the policing APS to get our police force mandated as an essential services, so that they'll be treated the same as the OPP towards wages and benefits and all that kind of stuff. That would be another one. Another one I think we have to deal with is doing a strategic planning. I know we do it a bit, but I think we have to plan a little further ahead with budgets in it somehow, because we're looking at a school, a daycare right now, and that's and plus the housing, and that's eating up all our finances. So I'm thinking if we do a strategic plan and plan how we're going, because we have to plan somehow to know how we're going to spend our money within the next 10 years. One of the things I was concerned about is the youth. Like, they probably need a new youth center. Maybe we should look at an arena again, go back and look at that, see if we can afford one, those kind of things, and start making plans and budgets and plan 10, 20 years down the road how we can get these things in place. And I think that's about all I can handle.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Roy Michano.
Hey, Art, bring my glasses.
How important is accountability in regards to your position on council?
I believe that minutes ought to be printed out regularly so that members can observe the activities of council members on areas of their importance. Without that, I don't believe that our council members have got a proper indication of members seeing what they have done within that council, although council members may have talked to members as they go along. So I think it's important that there is got to be proper information going out, at least from council meetings, so people can see really action is happening for sure. Miigwech.
Thank you, Roy. Leah Machano. What is the political role of members of council?
Our role is to be the healthiest role models and leaders of our community so that our future generations can continue to lead our community in the most positive way possible. I believe that it's council's responsibility to find adequate government funding so that we can continue to build houses and have better resources to schooling and education and funding in regards to that. I believe that it's our political responsibility to have community information sessions so that our people understand what's going on in our community and that maybe they can have better light on some situations or issues that they may be going through. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Tony Hansen. There are many social issues with alcohol and drugs, disrespect of authority figures and elders, vandalism of community property, and younger kids running around this reserve all hours of the night. What can we do to regain the control of the situation?
As counselors in the community, we have to take pride in our community and take it back. With the problems with alcohol and drugs, we have to adopt a zero tolerance for it, because we, not only this community, I've seen it in other communities, a zero tolerance period that I would like to see it be alcohol free. Is that possible? Probably not, but that's something we could look at maybe with our new constitution, our new laws, make the laws a little stricter for it. Keep it away, keep the drugs away out of the community. And like I said, I would strongly suggest that we use our Constitution to develop a better law, because obviously the laws that are out there now aren't working. You can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink. You can charge them 1,000 times. Like someone touched on it earlier, they said with the OPP, they come in years ago and just, I think it was you, Art, you mentioned it, that they give you a summons to be in court. Well, my experience, people don't always go to court, so let's make tougher laws. Our own laws that are going to bring it hard on the people to bring the drugs, bring the alcohol, and corrupt our children. Let's have a better future.
Thank you, Tony. Sharon Osberg. Are you in favor of chief and council meetings being televised?
Oh,
And
I like
why?
that question. It's nice and short. Yes, I think that we should have televised meetings, and that would give the community members an option to watch it or not, because you get, although I don't live here, I'm here often enough, and I hear enough complaints about people saying, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's going on. But like Leah had said, individuals have to take the initiative in order to read the minutes that are posted on the bulletin board, read those that are on the website, read the newsletters, and if we're going to give them another avenue, sure, we can televise the meetings, and of course, there's some things that can't be televised, like when we have an in-camera session, but I don't see any reason why we can't do that unless the technician over there don't want to work until midnight.
Thank you, Sharon. Angie Machano. What is your vision for the future of economic development in Beat-Conditionabeg?
I did quite a bit work with organizations and some other First Nations, and a lot of what we worked on was developing vision statements. And I think when you look at economic development, I think the long-term vision of the First Nation and what I would like to see is that we are a First Nation that is able to be financially stable, and that we're able to function as a First Nation without the funding from different funders like INAC or Union of Ontario Indians. That's it.
Thank you, Angie. Abraham Machano. What kind of assistance can you provide to establish the programs that were run before and are now not offered? So example, recreational programs, helping young moms, program, youth workers, professionals.
In a nutshell, I think it's to involve everyone, from the little guys to the old guys, everybody, to make everything as equal as possible so that when they come, they're not turned away, they're not afraid, they can initiate, they can ask questions. My vision for Bektagong is simple. It's the sky's the limit and beyond that. I think we have the capabilities as in Bektagong to be and set the standards, set the barriers, and reach for the stars. And continue to do that, because I don't want to. I think we have to think outside the box. If we continue to think inside the box, we're only limiting ourselves just to that one area. But if we're outside that box, we can go and do whatever. And one of the things I would like to see happening is a little bit more free enterprise, you know, and. Another thing I want to bring to the table is I want to have an election reform. We have to change the way that we elect our council and chiefs. And that's to engage everyone in the community. One of the gentlemen, before I go here, I don't know how much time I got left.
30 seconds.
Huh?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. is housing. I personally, and I'm blunt, I'm not an intellectual. I'm one of the fellows that is in arrears in housing. When I first moved to the community, I asked, they gave me that house where I'm living in now in the corner over there, and I asked, well, I'll paint it, I'll fix it up, and I'll do whatever. And I was told, no, we'll have contractors to come in. And that didn't, I don't know. It cost me more money to keep the house heated than it is to rent. It's in deplorable conditions. So, and I don't know about women that are up there, the single mothers and that, they need better housing in order to raise their children properly. We all do. Be good.
Thank you, Abe. Simon Desmolin. Would you endorse mandatory drug testing amongst all band employees, both present and future, in order to support your Healthy Community initiative?
Mandatory drug testing. I think if we were moving toward healthy communities, one of the things we'd really have to research is if mandatory drug testing is against human rights. It hasn't been tested anywhere yet, but it goes against the Human Rights Commission. And that's one of the things that we'd have to look at. What are basic human rights and what do employees have as human rights? Having said that, I believe that there are industries and agencies, and that if mandatory testing had to occur and was part of policy, then I'd have to support it. As a member of council, you support the whole. Like, you can't go out and say, I didn't support that initiative once the decision's been made. I would have to support that decision. And myself personally, I wouldn't have a problem as council member being drug tested. It is a tough question because one of the legalities is looking at human rights. And then the other legality and the question coming up is that as of July 2018, marijuana is legalized. And that brings up a whole new set of questions in terms of policy and personnel policies that govern how employees are treated, because it will be legalized. So that question has many facets, and that need to be researched and understood before you even make a mandatory decision like that. So I say miigwech.
Thank you, Simon. Josh Leclerc. How would you go about ensuring that nepotism is addressed in terms of hiring practices throughout all band ventures?
All right, good question. So nepotism is the appreciation and support of one's own family. There's right away conflict of interest, but with the community that we live in and other First Nations, this is going to happen where same families are going into certain fields, certain strings, and that's just because X amount of families make up a community. Now, how do we address this issue? In the hiring process, we have to have more voices for that accountability, and as well as creating a process that's transparent of all our hiring practices for the community. So we don't hear those complaints and concerns from community members, oh, such and such just got hired because their auntie is there. Such and such is working there because their dad's there. So we need to be transparent, become transparent in our hiring practices, and in doing so, I hope this answers a lot of concerns and questions about nepotism within Biktagan Anishinaabe. Miigwech.
Thank you, Josh. Bonnie Goodchild. What professional experience do you bring to the Biktagan Anishinaabe Council?
I have 8 years as a member of council. I worked 10 years with Anishinaabe Employment and Training Services for delivery of employment and training services for 9 communities. I have a management certification in human resources, HR. I think what most of all, what I find important to myself is that strong spiritual foundation. If we have a strong spiritual foundation, then we learn to respect all of our people. We learn to listen to all of our people. We think about our children. That's the major. They're the ones that are growing up, and they're going to be our future leaders. So if we have a good, strong spiritual foundation, we're going to build a good life for those children. Oh, good.
Thank you, Bonnie. Daniel Machano.
One more?
Yeah, last one. What motivated you as an individual to run for position of council?
Well, I guess it began maybe in 2003 or 2004. Just feeling, I guess I was in the position of the younger people that we talked about here before, seeking interest of the future of where we're going. I too was once a little guy running around, and hearing promises, hearing stories of where we're going and what we're doing. The talks of infrastructure, the talks of an arena, and that was when I was this high. So now I'm this high. We're still, we're still without it. We're still without that healthy piece, that healthy piece of something that we miss, like we're missing. So that's where my interest really got started, was finding out why, finding out how come, we don't, and really understanding, and really now understanding on anybody can build an arena, or anybody can build a health center or a school, but it's also the maintenance and the challenges that also come along with it. It's not just putting something on the ground and it's going to run itself. There's a lot of O&M that also goes along with it, and now I see the reasons why and understand the challenges why we don't, but that it still to this day motivates me to look for solutions. So, thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Arnold Machano. Yeah, this is your last question. How do you typically make decisions?
Holler and scream. No, we go based on a majority of the people that are present in council. And from there, we take it from there and we move forward. That's my answer. But I just want to say something here before we shut her down. Is I know you talk about the youth and the elders. We must never forget the elders, because that's a very, very good form of wisdom that's in there. A great many years. How long you been there, Roy? 30, 40 years? So there's a lot of wisdom in there, so we must never forget, unless you got a weak mind. But anyways, okay, I see me go ahead.
Thank you, Arnold.